Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Woodstock, Georgia. This is Fearless Formula with Sharon Klein. Thank you for joining us here at Fearless Formula on Business RadioX, where we talk about the ups and downs of the business world and we offer words of wisdom for business success. I'm your host, Sharon Klein. And today in the studio, I'm very excited to speak to the owner of Five Star Dent and Dings in Alpharetta. They are a Paintless Dent Removal company, but they offer other services as well. They've been in service for over 20 years. They have over 500 Google 5-star reviews, which is a really, really great statistic. They've worked on over 5,000 cars. They are where you would want to go if you have any kind of paintless dent removal need. Please welcome to the studio, Christiaan Marias. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you for coming to the studio. I'm excited to talk to you because I've not spoken to anybody in this industry, and I've been doing this show for like over 2 years. So there are things I need to learn. And I think people who listen to the show would like to hear as well, because it's a wonderful opportunity, if you can do it, to not have to go through so much to get your car to look the way you want to.
Absolutely.
I was doing a little bit of research, just a little bit, so that I could sound slightly intelligent. You're obviously the expert, but I was not even thinking about the aspect of what it will do for the environment if you're not having to use a bunch of paint.
Correct.
That's like a whole other aspect. So let's talk a little bit about how you got into this industry.
So actually, I've been in this industry basically right out of high school. And I mean, I've always been into cars ever since I was a little kid. And, graduated high school and was just doing some odd jobs here and there, not really sure what I wanted to do. And I had a friend of mine, this was when I was living in South Florida, and he approached me one day and said, hey, I just actually bought this franchise of this company that does little minor, paint touch-up and, things like that. And he's like, my business is starting to grow, and I really could use some help, and, wanted to see if it would be something that you'd be interested in. So I started working with him, and as I said, learned how to do, little minor paint touch-up and scratch repair, mostly for car dealerships. And then I did that for about, I guess it was maybe about 1.5 or 2 years, and then got a little bored with it. And I thought, you know what, I want to try something different, and had a little bit of a change of careers and got into the internet web hosting space for a little bit, but just really hated working in an office, being in a cubicle all day, and then just really wanted to be back outside. And ended up that another friend of mine who was working for a local paintless dent repair company in West Palm Beach called me one day and said, hey, my boss is looking for somebody who can do the type of work that you used to do with the paint touch-up and the scratch repair. Would you be interested? And I said, you know what? I've actually been thinking about, getting back, into the automotive reconditioning space. So I'd love it. So I ended up, going and working for that company, and in the process learned how to do paintless dent removal, and realized that I just loved it and I had a passion for it, and ended up starting my own business right after that.
I always think it's interesting, excuse me, there's like a creative aspect to repairing something, and being able to problem solve. And to me, I think it would be so satisfying. It's like a skill. It's a skill that not everybody has.
Definitely. And, over the years, I've learned all types of different, automotive reconditioning services, but the paintless dent repair is definitely the hardest that I've ever learned. And it takes a lot of patience. And, you're right. It takes that kind of creativity, because you're looking at the damage in the vehicle, and then you almost in a way have to imagine like how that damage was caused, and then in your mind kind of formulate a plan of how do I reverse that out. And so it's a little bit of, mechanical, but you've got to have that artistic ability and be creative in like, how do I do this? How do I create leverage? All these different things. So, I've been doing this for 20 years, and it's something that, I enjoy doing every day. I've not gotten bored of it yet. So I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a different feel altogether being in an office. I can't I mean, I'm imagining you're outside and you're dealing with the public, and you're actually getting to see the end result right in front of you of something that you worked really hard on to
Absolutely.
repair. It's so helpful too, because when for me, if anything happens to my car, if anyone told me, well, you're going to have to go here to get it fixed, and it's, your insurance company and all, I'd be like, okay, like I'm not an expert.
Correct.
But knowing that there's someone out there that could potentially save you from having to leave your car for weeks and weeks, have a huge insurance, hit. I would feel like that's the first stop I'd want to go to. Is this possible that you could fix this for me kind of, in a day or so, as opposed to having to go through something so much more extensive?
And I tell my clients it's honestly the closest thing that you can ever get to the damage never happening in the first place. Obviously, that's in a situation where there's no paint damage on the car, because we're essentially just reversing the damage out. And it is considered a green service because, again, there's no chemicals, there's no parts that are being replaced that now have to get thrown into a landfill. So all in all, it's better for the environment. Costs significantly less than what a regular body shop would charge. And we can usually get the customer's car back to them, within the same day, or at least within a day or two.
Have you ever had that feeling? I was wondering about this when I was on my way to the studio. I'm like, how would I feel if I had this company and I knew that someone wanted me to fix this big dent that I knew I couldn't do? Like, do people have unrealistic expectations?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and sometimes it's actually humorous. I'll get people that'll send me pictures or video, and I mean, it's literally like the whole side of the car just bashed in. And then I tell them like, hey, I'm really sorry, but this is not a good candidate. And they're like, but I don't understand. There's no paint damage. It's just, it's just dented. And I'm like, yes, I understand that, but like your door is crushed in, and there's like, this is going to have to get replaced. And I think just from doing this for so long now, I've been able to learn, what's possible and what's not possible. But definitely early on in my career, I spent a lot of hours working on things that just ended up not being something that I could, confidently, sell a customer and say, hey, this is a good repair. So, but people understand. And as long as you are upfront and honest with them, they're usually okay with that.
Who is an ideal customer to you?
I mean, that's a good question. I would say typically, customers that have nicer vehicles, your higher end vehicles. But I do have a lot of clients that have just, your average everyday cars, your Toyotas, your Fords. They're just particular about their car and they don't like dents. But yeah, obviously people who have higher end exotic cars are typically the ones that call me because they're very, picky about little things happening to the car. And, one of the benefits of what I do over a body shop, and which is why people with higher end vehicles typically will use my service, is because you retain the original value of the car. So anytime you're doing any kind of body work or you're replacing parts, it can devalue the vehicle. Mm. So it's a very important thing. And then generally as well, there's not any kind of Carfax report on the car, which can also, negatively impact the value.
You must be their best friend, because people who really care about their car, and my son is a car fanatic as well, and he is very passionate about his car. And, if someone feels that with him, it's like they're buddies. Yeah. Yeah. So I was thinking you must be so important to these people because you are just as passionate as they are.
100%. Yeah. And I have great clients. I mean, people that have been using me for years that, they won't use anybody else. And, a big part of what I do during the course of the year is also fix hail damage.
Wow.
And so as a matter of fact, this year I was in probably 4 or 5 different states. And, because I've been doing it for such a long time, I've gained, a good reputation in the industry. And then, people from different states will call me and say, hey, we've just had a major hailstorm. I need help. And so I will travel out to, Colorado or Chicago or wherever that happens to be and, help them with the process of not only the repairs, but also dealing with the insurance companies, writing estimates, things like that.
Living in Florida and all those tornadoes that come through, I imagine hail was an issue.
Oh, yeah.
There. Like you got the expert experience, and how wonderful to know that you can handle the stress part, for someone like the insurance company. All of that feels like, oh, it's just another thing to worry about. But knowing you could come in and kind of be like a superhero.
And that's literally what I tell my clients is that, once you've contacted your insurance company and you start that process of getting a claim, then I step in and then I take over from there and we handle it from start to finish. And then essentially all they do is come and pick up the vehicle once it's ready. So
you also do like bumper repair, I saw. So that's not considered an accident, right?
So that would be just more of your cosmetic type damage. We don't do any kind of collision repair. It's more cosmetic where it's just like you scraped it going into the garage, or your kid was riding the bicycle and scratched the side of the car.
Shopping cart,
something like that. Yeah. So just little minor, cosmetic repairs and some other things that we're also starting to offer, again, in that same cosmetic space. So we do rim repair for like curb rashed wheels, rock chip repair on windshields.
You also do, I saw, not like I'm telling you what you do, but I saw on your website, which I love, is that you do headlight restoration, which is a big thing. My car is really old, so it's nice to imagine I could go somewhere to really help me see at night.
Well, especially nowadays with the with some of the newer vehicles, the headlights, the technology in the headlights is advancing. And so you've got a lot of halogen headlights, LED, and just the headlight itself could be anywhere from $500 to $1,000 to replace. And so, with us being able to restore the clarity, I mean, it's a fraction of the cost. Yeah.
What have you noticed about how the materials that are used to make cars from like 20 years ago to now?
Definitely the biggest thing that I've noticed is that the metal, the sheet metal or the aluminum is getting a lot thinner, so which makes it more susceptible to getting dented. But a big part of that is because, it lightens the weight of the car, and so it's better for fuel economy, but it's not always good for, damage.
So 20 years ago, was it more steel?
Yes. Yeah. Almost exclusively, unless you were dealing with a very high end car like a Mercedes or a Porsche or, Bentley or Rolls Royce. But now you're starting to see more and more aluminum. As a matter of fact, I want to say the new Ford F-150s are almost entirely aluminum, even the roof. And, a lot of people think, oh, aluminum is softer, so it must be easier to fix, but it's actually quite the opposite. So, generally when I have a client that has a car that's made from aluminum, there is a little bit of an upcharge just because it takes a lot more time and effort to do the repair.
It's more malleable?
So what it is that with sheet metal, it actually has a memory. So when when you have a dent in sheet metal and you're kind of manipulating it from the underside, it almost wants to go back into place. Whereas with aluminum, it doesn't have that memory. So you're having to exert 2 or 3 times the amount of pressure to the bottom of it to get it to almost kind of go back into place.
So you were in Florida. How did you come up here to Georgia?
So actually, Georgia is the second place that I've been after Florida. So I actually lived in Michigan for a short time. It was about 4 years. And that was an interesting experience because obviously, Detroit, you've got the big 3 there. And I got to meet a lot of, people that were in the automotive industry. I got invited to, the Detroit Auto Show. I actually fixed a couple of cars at the Detroit Auto Show.
Like live in front of people?
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
wow.
not so much in front of people, but they had vehicles there from the manufacturers that were on display. And then just in the process of them getting set up, little things would happen. So I actually, worked on the cars there.
What was that like?
It was a little nerve-wracking, but it's just like anything. It's you have to just focus on what you're working on and don't pay attention to the environment. But just the connections that I made and just the experience of dealing with people that were literally like on the front line of designing. I talked to so many engineers about just the process that they go through with designing the cars and the software and all of that. And it was just a very, very big learning experience.
Also, I was thinking, if you're up in Michigan, what the environment and temperature and snow and all of that does to a vehicle as opposed to being here more in the South, what have you noticed?
I would just say mostly the types of damage. Like when I was working in Michigan, you would get a lot of damage from, ice and also people drifting, and hitting snowbanks. So you'd have a lot of, damage like that. But a big thing too is in Michigan, obviously with the cold, there's some different techniques that we have to use when you're working outdoors, because the metal, the paint, everything is much more brittle. So you have to be more careful about as you're working that metal from the inside that you don't overdo it and end up causing the paint to crack. So some different techniques, which is a big reason why now here in Georgia, I actually have a fixed shop location. And it just allows me to be in a more controlled environment, which is just better all around. My lighting is more controlled. It's temperature controlled. So, air conditioning in the summer, wintertime, I have the heat going. So it's just overall a better environment to do a quality job.
I also see that you have people that you can dispatch out to where someone's car is. Will you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So right now, I don't have employees, but I do have subcontractors. And so essentially when we have body shops or dealerships that need work done, and they're not able to bring the car to the shop, I have technicians that I can dispatch to the client. Also my other vendors that do the other services that we offer, like the bumper painting and the wheel repair, those are all mobile services. So those can be done, either at the client's house or at their office. So it's a lot more convenient.
Heck yeah. If you don't have to take your car, go drop it off and get someone to drive you and all of that. I mean, it's just kind of like a no-brainer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You just be home.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of clients that are, that work from home. And so they have to be on meetings or calls. And so, with us being able to do that service, for them mobile, it helps. But, there's definitely types of repairs, like bigger repairs or like hail damage that it's not really convenient to do it at a customer's location. So in that situation, we'll schedule them to bring it to the shop.
So if you're just joining us, we are speaking with Christiaan Marias of 5 Star Dents and Dings in Alpharetta. I also wanted to ask you, what is it like what have you learned being a business owner, not just obviously going into Michigan and having your business, but being here as well? What's something that's really surprising to you that you wish you had known before you got started being a business owner?
Oh, that's a great question. I feel like I'm always learning. Even though I've been doing this for over 20 years, I feel like it's just a constant learning experience. I'm very talented and very good at what I do when it comes to the hands-on repair portion of it, but I would definitely say that the hardest part for me has been learning the business side of things, especially with regards to, the financial side of things, taxes, marketing and things like that. So, for me, that's been the biggest struggle, is just, staying on top of, especially nowadays with social media being such a big part of small business and, kind of getting your name out there. Started learning about that, being more comfortable, talking about what you do. I'm not the greatest at it, but something that I'm working on is trying to be more comfortable being on camera so that I can put out some more content on my social media channels to, just let people know what it is that we do, because it is something that not a lot of people are familiar with.
Not unless they have to be.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
And then you're stressed out.
Right.
So it's kind of nice to know it beforehand when you don't even need it.
Yeah. But yeah, I would say for me, the biggest thing that I continually try to, stay up on is just, learning the business side of things and just trying to be more efficient or, ways to grow the company and kind of reach more people.
So I did see that you had a video. I want to say it might have been on Instagram, kind of explaining the basics of what paintless dent removal is. So is that the main way that you market, is using social media? Like most people on Facebook, you don't even have to pay really a marketing company.
Correct.
You can do a lot of it on your own. Is that how you market?
Yeah, I would say, it's a combination of that and, something I've found, just over the years, I've tried all different types of, advertising and marketing. We've done mailers, we've done, postcards, just different things like that. But it seems that when somebody's looking for the type of service that we offer, they're generally going online and they're looking for it on, Google or Yahoo or whatever. So I have found the most effective way for me is to, do, Google ads and then just most recently just really focusing in on the social media part of it and just, trying to create more content because people share that and they see it and then it educates them on what we do. And then I'll get phone calls from someone that says, oh, hey, I happen to see you on Instagram, or a friend of mine, shared your page with me. So, those three areas I would say. And then we do get a lot of business just from our, referrals from our clients and repeat business.
I was going to say, you develop a relationship with these people, right?
For sure. I still even have clients that call me from Florida.
Oh, wow.
And, they've have my number in their phone and they'll call me and I'll say, hey, I'm so sorry, but I'm not there anymore. But hey, let me refer you over to this person. So, it's nice being in the business for so long and I know people all over the country. So even people that have moved around, I can still, take care of them by referring them to the right people.
What do you think people don't know about your business, about your industry? What do you think, like, if you had a minute to be able to kind of know that, like, oh, I just hate hearing that people think this is so easy, or, is there something that you're just like, I want people to understand what it's like on my side?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a misconception with dent removal that, dents just pop out.
Yeah, so, don't you put like a plunger on the
right?
Side of your
Oh yeah, plunger, dried ice, suction cups, other items. But yeah, that I would say is the biggest misconception is that people just have this idea that something bumped into it to put the dent there. So if you can just kind of get behind it or use a suction cup, then it just basically pops out and it's perfect.
And that there are kits, I want to say, like at AutoZone, I think they may have like a paintless dent removal kind of kit where you can do it yourself at home.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I just had a client that came to my shop the other day and he had, I don't know if it was hail damage or it was like acorn damage. Well, he went to the store to AutoZone and bought this little glue puller thing that they sell for, I want to say it's $19.95 or whatever, and attempted to do it himself and absolutely ruined the car.
No.
Even to the point where someone like myself who knows how to do this, I had to tell him, I'm so sorry, but like this has to go to a body shop now and they're going to have to completely redo the hood, the roof, the trunk. And I could just see it in his face that he was just so absolutely disappointed that, this $20 tool that he bought at the AutoZone is now going to probably cost him like thousands.
Oh God.
So yeah, that's the other thing is I would urge people to not try to mess with it yourself. It seems simple in concept, but there's a reason why, it requires all these different tools and techniques and things like that to do a proper job.
Have you ever had a day where at the end of the day, you kind of like, wish you could high five yourself because you just did such an amazing job on something?
There's been many of those days actually. And it's usually on those very complicated jobs where initially I looked at it and I was like, you know what, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this, but I said, you know what, I'll give it a try. And I'll even tell the client, hey, you know what, I'm willing to at least give this a shot. And, as you start to work on it and it starts coming out, you're like, okay, this may actually work. And then, by the end, you're like, wow, this actually came out amazing. And I'm happy. And then I've had many clients like, can I just give you a hug right now? Because like, that was amazing. And this bothered me so much. And I'm just so happy right now that you were able to fix this.
Aww.
So, it's definitely a sense of like accomplishment. And it's one of the biggest things that I enjoy about what I do is that, kind of like that instant gratification where you can take something that's obviously damaged or messed up and, by my own hands and technique and work, I can make it look like it never happened.
And you're their best friend.
Yes.
Were you considered an essential worker during COVID?
That's actually a very good question. So I was not considered an essential worker. However, it just so happened, this was when I was in Michigan, and I had a good friend of mine that was living up in like the more central part of Michigan, and they had just gotten a hailstorm. And so they called and said, hey, we need your help because we have these hail cars at a body shop. Well, luckily, the body shops and the auto repair centers were considered essential. So I kind of was able to fall in under, that little umbrella, and I was able to keep working because I had to close my shop down in Michigan because I wasn't considered essential.
That was my question, was how did you survive the pandemic?
Yeah. So luckily, for about two or 3 months, I was able to work, under this body shop. And then, once they started lifting some of the restrictions, then I was able to open my shop back up. And, obviously we took all the precautions with, disinfecting and all of that. But it was an interesting time.
I always talk to people here about, how some companies didn't obviously survive.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I was thinking about how, restaurants and, I guess industries in that way, but like for people, there are always going to be people driving, and
Correct.
There's always going to be accidents because we're fallible.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm glad to hear that you were able to survive.
Yeah, me too, because I was definitely worried because, I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, now what? Like I have to close my business down, and it's not like I could even just go to another state and work because, it was just happening all across the country. And it was just such a,
it was like a little blessing.
Blessing for sure. Yeah. I ended up having to drive, a little bit every day because, of course, like even the hotels and things were, a little sketchy.
Sure.
So luckily it was about an hour and a half away. And so I would just get up real early in the morning and I would, hour and a half commute to the body shop, work there for the day, and then drive back. And, but I kept,
it kept you afloat.
Kept the money rolling in. So I was happy about that.
I'm curious. Okay, have you seen the Teslas that look like trash cans, kind of, or whatever? Like, what would you do if one came to you? What is that even made of? I know nothing. I just look at them and I'm like, what the heck?
So yeah, I'm starting to see them a lot more. Honestly, I have not had an opportunity to work on one yet, but I'm part of a big group on Facebook, and it's people who do the same thing that I do all across the country, and so a few of the other guys have posted pictures and things of ones that they've worked on. From my understanding, they're made from stainless steel, which is essentially like a refrigerator. And so I don't know what it's going to be like to work on one, but I'm sure I'll probably find out pretty soon because I'm starting to see them a lot more often on the road now.
Aren't they like wicked expensive too? Like,
yeah, I want to say they're like at least $100,000 or more.
Does anything make you feel daunted? Like, would you be like, holy crap, I don't want to touch this car? I don't know.
Sometimes, just because, when you're dealing with a high dollar vehicle, that sort of like that room for error like is much smaller, or, just in the process of working on the car, sometimes we have to take things apart. And, as careful as you can be sometimes, naturally things, can break or whatever. So that's always something that makes me a little bit nervous. But as far as, working on the car itself, I look at it like it's the same sheet metal, it just has a different badge on it.
Do you park your car like away from other cars in parking lots?
Sometimes.
I was just curious, like if you were just, not that you need people to not have their cars dinged because you want to stay in business.
Right. Just
I'm
not
just
my
wondering,
own. Yeah.
Just not your own. Where do you park?
No. And I've even that when I've been traveling for work and I know that there's going to be a hailstorm, like I'm still like that person where I'm like, if I can park my car under cover, I'm going to, even though I know I can fix it. It's just like, I don't want to go through that whole process, but I do try to park, far away, but inevitably I've still gotten dented, and so I end up sitting fixing my own car. It just takes a while because I'm so busy fixing everybody else's stuff, right?
You're like low in the totem pole of things, of customers. What would you like to see where would you like to see your business go? Like, do you have like a 5-year plan, 10-year plan of where you would like to see it? Yeah.
So, right now, basically like my kind of my goal for the next few years is to, I'd love to have more than one location. I feel like it's a service that's definitely needed, especially, kind of here in the, metro Atlanta area. And, still a lot of people don't know that this type of service is even available. So I think as we start to get, more known and people, start to use our services, I think that our customer base is going to grow. So having multiple locations, we'd be able to service them a lot more efficiently. The other plan that I have is to really expand the service offerings. So almost becoming essentially like a concierge service where, we become like a one-stop shop for our clients where, we've already built that trust in them. And so now kind of like going back to what we were talking about with the insurance, right? Like somebody that you can just say, hey, I trust you. You've done work for me before. I just need you to handle this. I want to get some paint touch-up done. I've got these dents, even window tint or detailing. I just want to drop my car off with you, and then you take care of everything, and then I'll just come and pick it up when it's all done. And I feel like there's a need for that type of service, and I'd like to be able to offer that.
Well, so it's amazing too to imagine. I mean, you are the person that they trust, right?
Correct, yeah.
It's you.
Yeah.
So being able to surrender a little bit of control to other people that you trust in order to expand, I can imagine it's like a little daunting as well.
It is.
Because it's your name, it's your business, and I'm wondering if I have control issues because just the idea of that, I'm like, oh, that would be hard for me.
Oh, trust me, it's definitely been a big thing for me, and I'm finding, I think, as I get a little older, and I realize that my time is limited as far as like what I'm going to be able to do, or just again, kind of like the whole idea of being able to service more clients and taking care of more people. I know that I can only do so much on my own. And so now the focus has really shifted away from myself to now I want to build a brand or a company and a business that carries that same reputation. And part of that is like me picking the right people to be able to offer those services that I can trust and say, hey, even though it's not me personally, I can vouch for for these other companies that are part of our umbrella.
Ooh, that's hard. It's hard work, I would imagine, because, your heart's in it and you want someone else to have their heart in it, I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, and I think that just goes back to, just having a good network of people and just seeing what type of work they do and, their reputations as well. And just being, building a team, and that's really kind of my focus now going into the next few years is having that team of people that I know that I can trust and that my clients can trust as well.
Do you think you have a fearless formula? What do you do to manage the natural emotions that we all have in the business world? If something isn't going well or, there's a stress to you, how do you manage it?
Definitely some days are easier than others. I think at the end of the day, when you're a small business owner, you just have to realize that, you're going to have good days and bad days. But, as long as you have that passion and that drive for what you do, and essentially, you're committed to providing like a good quality service, you just have to focus on that and know that, every day is just, that you're putting in that effort. And even when you make a mistake or something goes bad, you know that your clients believe in you and that as long as you make it right, that they're still going to, come back.
It's almost like managing realistic expectations of like the human side of business. In other words, there are days where I don't know why I'm like having a great day and I'm almost like I could teach how to live. And then there are days where I'm just like, I don't know why, but is this horrible? And I can't figure out what the difference is. But I like that you're just kind of being realistic, not saying it's all going to be great. Well, it might not all be great, but
no,
at least you're being honest.
It usually isn't, and I definitely, realized that, in the very beginning, it was like I had this great idea of like, oh, I'm going to have my own business and it's going to be great. And I'm going to be able to manage my own schedule and I can come and go as I please. And, it's completely the opposite. I feel like you work 3 times as much, your brain never shuts off, even when you're home at night or on the weekend or on vacations. I think it definitely takes a certain kind of person that can deal with that. Just because again, it's just your brain is just always switched on to it. And sometimes, you wish that you could shut it off, but I really wouldn't have it any other way. Like I've thought in the past, like, well, maybe I should just go back and work for somebody and just, get a 9 to 5 or something like that. And I
let them deal with all the headaches of being,
but the thought of that actually like is terrible for me. So as horrible as it is sometimes, dealing with the stress and the aggravation and the, the sleepless nights, like I feel like it's just something that is in me, and it's just how it's always going to be.
How do you balance being the business owner and knowing that you could be reached at any moment? Like, are there times that you put your phone down or put it on silent? Or, I mean, it's 24/7 access to you through social media as well, I'm sure, if anyone wanted to post anything. So what do you do to balance your life?
I mean, you definitely have to, make that decision of like, I'm going to be focused on my business, from these hours. And, there are people who sometimes feel like they have access to you at all times. And sometimes there is that want to, to help them out. But then it does become a problem, and that has happened to me over the years where, especially moving to new locations, you feel this obligation to, kind of put in that grind. So you're working extra hours, you're working weekends, but I mean, it definitely can, overwhelm you. And so that's something that I've been working on as well, just over the last few years, is just, number one, just having set hours that I work. I mean, even though my brain doesn't shut off on the thinking process of it, I definitely don't answer my phone after a certain time, but it's also putting in systems, things in place that automate the communications so that, even though it's not me personally handling all of that, there are things in place through my website or through, software and things that I use that can still allow that communication to happen with the client, but it's not me personally handling all of that.
Wonderful. So a client feels like they're being attended
Correct.
to.
Yeah.
So smart.
And there's definitely some good innovations that are starting to happen now with some different, software and things like that answer text messages, they answer phone calls. They can do follow-ups. And so it helps when you're just a small business, and it allows you to be more efficient, but not kill yourself trying to keep up with all of it.
If someone's listening now who is considering opening their own business, do you have like a nugget of advice that you would give them?
I would say definitely, whatever that business is that you're going to open, I mean, definitely be passionate about it, but take the time to learn the business aspect of whatever business it is that you're wanting to open, because I feel like that's the part of it that's going to kill your happiness, and it's going to make you not want to do what you love, right? And it's like I think it's natural for somebody to enjoy doing something, and then they have the idea of, hey, let me turn this into a business. And then, as time goes on and it's just sapping the life out of you, you almost become, just like you start to hate it. Mm-hmm. And so, my advice would just be, figure out what it's going to take for you to still be able to enjoy what you do, and learn things that can, make it easier for you on the parts of the business that you're not very good at.
Totally makes sense. There are lots of weak spots that I have in the voiceover world. And if I knew that I had someone who was maybe strong in that way, then I could concentrate on the things that I'm strong with, or at least learn how to maybe give myself tools to deal with the parts that aren't very strong.
That's a great idea.
I love that. Well, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, what would be the best way?
So, I mean, we have our website is, 5stardentremoval.com. And we're on all the social media channels. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
You got your TikTok?
Yeah, we have some TikTok. So I've been working with a company that's been helping me with my, with my social media, and they've been doing a great job just kind of cross-posting all of the, the content. So I've been noticing a big difference with that as well.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah. That's awesome. I'm on TikTok entirely too much.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love it. But I also think, wow, I mean, if I am, and I'm like an old soul or whatever, you've got a lot of young people who that's what they do.
Yeah.
So it's really smart to go in that route, I think. Well, Christiaan Marias, thank you so much for coming to the studio.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on the show. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you. I've had a blast. I really appreciate it. Now I know a lot more about paintless dent removal, and I feel like I can speak about it and know where I can point people if they have that, including myself.
Awesome.
On my 2012 Prius. Listen, I love my car, and that's the thing. People love their cars,
Yeah,
and
they do.
come to you.
And well, we can make it look pretty again.
Ah. Well, hooray. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And thank you all for listening to Fearless Formula on Business Radio X. And again, this is Sharon Klein reminding you, with knowledge and understanding, we can all have our own fearless formula. Have a great day.